It certainly contributed. I mean, you could have lack of transparency through no fault of the government, and I think you had that at a minimum. In other words, if I take out a mortgage with you, you're my banker, and you sign the mortgage with me, but then you sign it over to a third party, and the third party signs it to a fourth party, and so on. Through no fault of the government, it may be very difficult to find out who's holding the paper. If I default on my mortgage, somebody down the road gets burned. Who? You know, that person may not even know, because they may not. That doesn't say it's Steve Buser's mortgage. It says it's a piece of a pool of mortgages. They don't even know my mortgage is in that pool. They've never even heard of me. So even if everyone saw that I defaulted and we published it in every paper in the United States, the investor holding a piece of that paper would not know. So there's a lack of transparency there. I do think that the government has contributed to the problems in two senses of the word. Number one, they allowed all that to go through and did not have any procedures for clearing up the transparency in real time. And then after the fact, even when they go in and investigate and they find out that these types of mortgages are defaulted, these pools of mortgages are at risk, these investors are getting burned, they still have not explained who is getting burned. So we've not created transparency. So even if they didn't create the lack of transparency, they didn't do anything to protect transparency in real time, and after the fact, and it's probably the third one, after the fact is most important, they did not go in and even tell people what they know. For example, they have identified 100 problem banks, banks that may very well fail in the next year, but they will not tell anyone who that is for fear that no one would do business with those banks. But by telling people there are 100 banks out there that may fail, maybe yours, you're not very eager to participate in your bank, even though the vast majority of banks are not going to fail, and the government could assure you of that as well. They're not telling you your bank is safe, so that lack of transparency means you can't deal with that bank, and they're not doing it for banks either. They're not saying, of your customers, these are in difficult straits and others are not. So the government has not done anything to promote the transparency.